Hello, this is Matt from CVG and I'm here today with Dave from GamesRadar.
Hello.
And we are going to have a quick chat about Titanfall, which both of us played last week. Now, first things first, we'll skip to the good stuff straight away. Is it any good?
Yes, it's brilliant.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good. What in particular stood out for you as the high point of Titanfall?
For me, it's weird because you assume that being Titanfall, then smashing things in the face with mechs is going to be like the be-all and end-all. But it really isn't. For me, there's no real obvious one point that makes it great. It's the fact that there's so many layered, brilliantly fun little moments and systems that just kind of underpin the entire thing. Whether you're a man running around with a gun or whether you're stomping a mech about or somewhere in between, there's just so many brilliant second moments that are just consistently fun in that game.
That's the impression I got as well, the way that it all gels together, and the two things are so sort of vastly different, like the pilot and the Titan, but the way that they combine never ever felt like you were suddenly going to get stomped or killed. Everything felt like it could be killed, and equally you felt like you were in danger most of the time as well.
Well, yeah, and whether you're in a mech or not. I mean, you assume that, you know, it's going to be a case of you build up, you wait 2 minutes, get your Titan dropped in, which in itself is awesome when he comes rattling down from the sky like, behold! And then you get in and you think, right, now I'm going to have 2 minutes of smashy, but it's not. In no way are the Titans a game winner on their own. You know,
Absolutely
it's like they work more like the vehicles in Battlefield, really, where they add a nice asymmetric vibe to the battle, but in no way are they just a be all and end all in themselves.
It really is an awesome moment when they come in, and equally in a weird way, like if you have to eject if one gets blown up, it's an equally brilliant
really
moment of like kind of, well, maybe everything will be fine.
Yeah, because there's so much you can do off the back of that. You know, when you realise you can switch to your rocket launcher and start hailing down rockets on the guy who took you out, or jump on his back and rip his kind of cabling out and start shooting his engine.
And that's, I think, the thing about it is the whole thing felt a little bit like barely controlled, but elegantly controlled chaos. And I think that leads on to the point about 6v6. And we saw quite a lot of stuff about like, well, they didn't think that would be enough. But the truth is, I think, something quite different.
Oh, it totally is, yeah. In fact, the way, as we'll say in a minute, the way they make that 6v6 work adds a whole new element that no other shooter's got, really.
Let's talk about that a bit now then, because I thought it was certainly enough. And there were sort of a few other elements that bolstered the kind of things that were happening on the map. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got 6v6, some of whom will be in Titan, some of whom will be on foot at any given time. Then it's filled out with bots on either side, which are kind of, I think, the robots on one side and sort of clone militia on the other. And they work great, because their AI is dialed back and the damage they can take is dialed back to the point where they never dominate the battlefield. It's not like you're fighting humans and bots equally. They're basically sort of like ambient targets. So they're effectively there to ensure that you never get that Call of Duty thing where you're running across the map for 5 minutes trying to find someone. Like, you can go point to point, maybe taking bases or whatever, but there's always 2 or 3 dudes to shoot out along the way. So it just kind of gives you that constant little inertia and a bit of momentum that's rolling all the time.
It made a lot of difference to me because just that sense of always having something there to kill was brilliant. I mean, they're rubbish, aren't they? I never saw them dealing any damage at all. But it works. Weirdly.
Well, that's great because they never intrude either. You know, the fight's always between you and the players. No one ever gets screwed over by a bot getting in the way, which I think is probably what a lot of people are worried about. They're just like, it's almost like sort of grunts in a MOBA, really. They're just there to kind of give you something to smash up on your way between doing other stuff, really. The
only functional thing I maybe thought was that if you're being pinpointed on the map by shooting, obviously the temptation to shoot 5 of them in a row immediately gives away your position, but I'm not sure if that's the case or not.
No, and I suppose they can, if you pick the wrong target in a kind of tight firefight, then you can go for the ones that aren't a threat rather than the guy who is a problem. But I think, obviously we played for just like 3 hours that afternoon. I think it wasn't long before we started learning to kind of spot what was important and what wasn't, and when the bots were worthwhile and when they weren't, really. Yeah,
and that in a sense that sort of throws back to what we said earlier about the sort of systems working well together, and a lot of it is about picking your targets, being in the right place at the right time, and outflanking things.
Well,
like
absolutely,
that.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the thing is as well that I think doesn't your Titan unlock faster if the more damage you do to the opposing team?
Yeah, it certainly seemed to, yeah.
So the bots definitely give you a massive helping hand in doing that. You can almost sort of grind up on them to a degree. So
let's talk a little bit about game modes, because there were 3 that we played. Not sure yet if that's all there will be or not, but at the moment it certainly seemed like enough. They were different enough.
Yeah,
so
well, it never felt like it needed more.
No, not at all. So the first one we tried was Attrition, which was pretty much your basic deathmatch with this twist at the end of having to evacuate. The losing team will have to sort of flee to a dropship, which I thought again was a really, really cool twist. That feeling of like the sense of sort of giving them an extra kick in the ribs if you manage to kill them or blow up their dropship, which was the ultimate thing. Not only have you lost, you've also got no way of getting home, and you're all dead. So.
Yeah, and anyone left on the ground is now going to be stamped on.
Yeah,
but I mean that ties into. There's a lot of talk with Titanfall about how they're trying to create the sort of vibe of a narrative single-player campaign in multiplayer. And we've had games that have said that before and haven't really delivered, but it really does. And that's just like the cherry on the cake at the end of a match. Like, every match is made up of these amazing emergent little set pieces that just evolve over the course of all these many systems coming together. But to always round off with this like frantic everyone rushing to the same point thing, whether you're escaping or killing the escapees, it just, like I said, I mean, a lot of the best multiplayer modes are effectively about putting people in the same place to cause a conflict, and that does it with such like brilliantly dramatic intent.
I thought so. As far as death matches are concerned, I thought it was one that, like you say, had an organic story immediately.
Yeah,
and it was hugely enjoyable. How did you get on with Hardpoint, which is basically domination? So you're taking points and holding them. Yeah,
I enjoyed that. I mean, I was always a big fan of domination in COD anyway, so I kind of felt naturally at home with it. It felt at first a little bit superfluous to me. Have a game that, like I said, has so many amazing sort of emergent dramatic moments and little, almost like player-led narrative set pieces that kick off all the way through, and a domination mode kind of felt a little bit superfluous to kind of, like it didn't need to add anything to create that sort of stuff. But once I got into it and started getting to the flow of understanding how the Titans work differently in that, and using them as almost like guard dogs, or as it was like your first kind of vanguard to push towards the next base or whatever. It was good, and the bases are all, I found, quite closely spaced together, so it sort of evolves into a sort of team deathmatch flow anyway, so you never really feel like you're just rushing from point to point aimlessly the whole time.
I never felt like I was just sat there waiting for someone to come and get me as well.
No, there's always something to do.
I really like the fact as well that it kept reminding you that, you know, just don't go around killing people because the bases are important, so what you're doing is great, so stay where you are.
Yeah.
Someone defend this, and I think that was quite a good idea.
Yeah, but it gives you so much positive reinforcement all the time, as well as building the story, you know. There's always your commander's voice in your ear, kind of giving you little on-the-fly decisions, like, it'll just references and explaining where the story's going next, and kind of, no, you're in a mech, you don't need to be shooting men, there's a base over there, go for it, you know, it's...
I think that's a crucial point to make, actually, because I think what you were saying before about the story is reinforced by the fact that all the time you've got like this drip feed of information coming through, and it gives everything like a sense of importance and narrative and drive, and that definitely does work.
Yeah, you never get that flailing feeling you get in like even a good multiplayer shooter occasion when you've not got a kill for a while, or you can't find a man, or you're getting peppered a lot. Like, everything you're doing has a purpose, and if not, it'll tell you the next thing that will. Like, everything matters, basically. It's really fun.
So the last one we've got is Last Titan Standing, which I think was probably my favourite, just in terms of sheer maddening carnage. How did you get on with that?
Yeah, again, that was the one I didn't expect to like, because I thought it's everyone. The gist is that everyone starts on a Titan from the moment it kicks off. You can lose your Titan, you'll stay alive on the battlefield as a man as long as you stay alive, and literally the last Titan standing wins. So I thought it'd just be a giant mess of just metal punching metal in the face, which it can be at times, but at the same time, because everyone's so powered up from the start, it really teaches you the finesse of using a Titan, I found.
Absolutely, yeah, I found exactly the same thing, and it was like to start with, it was a bit like a tutorial in terms of how they work, and the fact that two of them, just like a one-on-one battle, will quite often just end up in like not a stalemate, but it's quite hard for you to own another Titan.
Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah, they're really, really well balanced.
We'll finish with sort of the inevitable COD question. Did you sort of personally feel there was a lot of similarities with it, or the similarities been sort of built up too high, do you think?
Yeah, I think just because Respawn are doing it, and obviously those guys invented COD effectively, that the connection being played up way too much. I mean, it's fast and it's really slick and it's smooth, whether you're playing a Titan or a human pilot. There's that really nice, lovely, buttery responsiveness for the aiming, but that's as far as it goes, really. I think the actual gameplay pace and the flow, and you know, the way damage is dealt, and just the general flow of a fight is completely different and a lot more fun, I find.
Yeah, is that the sort of, it's at both ends are different from how COD is, and the pilot stuff is much faster. You're far more agile. I think trying to snipe someone as a pilot would be nigh on impossible.
Well, yeah,
I'm sure people will do it. But
I mean, the game's built. I can't imagine how you'd ever camp in that game at all. I don't think because the Titans aren't tall enough to kind of. I mean, the Titans can just get you with splash damage, even though they're not tall enough to hit the buildings. And everyone in the game is so agile and so mobile that there's no way you're going to hold a spot.
No, if you stay in one place too long, someone just comes up behind you. And one of my favourite things about the game actually was the rear melee attack.
Oh yeah,
twist your head round.
Yeah, the melon snapper.
Yeah, and the last thing you see is the face of the man that murdered you, just staring into your dead eyes.
Yeah, that's better than stealing a dog tag, right? But yeah, and again, there's that. It's about how we were talking about how the many little mechanics come together to make a great whole. There's the fact that you do unlock your Titan faster if you're making more kills and doing more damage. And if you're camping, waiting for people to pull in front of you, you're not going to do that.
No.
It's completely disincentivized to play like that. So
we'll finish with one question: Xbox One's killer app or not?
So far, yes. I mean, whether it's enough on its own, I'm not sure, but as a game in its own right, I can't wait to get hold of it again.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Dave.